justice for all.
Will you bow your heads? Father, we come to this day. We are so grateful to be gathered here together. And Father, we ask that you just move mightily in our city, Father, in our state, and in our nation. We are so thankful that we were able to celebrate not only independence, but Father, we're also able to celebrate freedom, which comes from you. Today, Father, we ask you to protect our first responders, Father, in each and every position and job that they do. We ask that you be with our military men and women, Father, even overseas. And today, Father, we ask you just for your wisdom and your guidance as we make decisions for our city. And we are so grateful to have the opportunity to serve your people. Today, we give you glory and honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. So I know you've all had a chance to review the minutes of the last regularly scheduled meeting. If there are no corrections or additions, we're going to stand as approved. Are there any corrections or additions to those? Seeing none, okay, they shall stand as approved. So at this time, we have time for public comment. Again, we have a 30-minute time slot. We ask that you spend no more than 5 minutes, and if you will come to the podium, state your name, and then that way so everyone can hear. So if there's anyone here for public comment.
Mayor Unruh, we had sent out an invitation after the town hall meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Just because there was a lot of people listening in and watching, weren't able to hear the meeting until the very end because of a technical problem. But we extended the invitation that if there were questions that folks had or comments that folks had that they weren't able to share, that to send those in to us. We didn't have any that specifically identified as being in the wake of the town hall meeting,
Right.
but did receive a couple of public inputs or public comments that weren't necessarily tied to any other specific post. And so I'll pass these around and find a way to get them to you in advance of the next meeting. Both have to do with some aspect of the 4th of July. One is a concern about the length of time, and it was sent directly to us, and it wasn't necessarily tagged to a link, but we'll include that in the information. We're going to provide a packet of public input we've received, so that one will be included in the packet. That's from Kathy Fleury, and yeah, again, the length of time and the mortars and the size of the fireworks. Then the other one was one that had been sent to Chief Beatty from Bryce Copper, and it was a compliment for the fireworks display that the city funds, and also being appreciative of the work that goes into that by staff, fire department specifically. And so I'll pass those around. You can read them if you get a second during the meeting, and then I'll have, again, we'll have copies for everybody at the next meeting when both chiefs do a presentation on sort of the debrief of 4th of July.
No, that sounds great. Thank you, Matt.
And if there's no other public comment, Mayor, we can move on down the agenda. There's no petitions, memorials, and remonstrances either. So we're ready for 7A. That's the presentation of there's some staff reports in there. I don't believe there's a verbal presentation on the master activity report. But there is a presentation by Jennifer and the construction manager at risk, McCowan Gordon. And so I'll turn it over to Jennifer to talk about that item.
Okay. And I know Sealand stepped out to get them, so. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Welcome. The presentation today is actually going to be mostly McCowan Gordon, but Terry from the Confluence Design team along with Hank are here as well. We had a great meeting this morning, about 2 hours talking about this project, and so I'm really excited that you finally get to meet them in person and have a discussion about this project. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mitch.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mitch Binns with McCowan Gordon Construction. We did have a good productive meeting, and so productive, Hank and Terry, they decided they did not need to be here, and so they.
Anytime Jennifer's involved in anything, I'm going to tell you. We would have expected nothing less. Yeah.
It was a good discussion this morning, a lot of productive things decided. And really we wanted to talk about our process this afternoon and just explain to you what you'll be seeing over the coming months. So we got a couple of team members here that'll be integral to the success of the project, but my name's Mitch Benz again. I'll be project executive on that project, ultimately responsible for the success of the project, but the team really knows what they're doing and we have ultimate responsibility are here with me as well. Barry, if you want to.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Barry Schmidt with McCown Gordon Construction. I'm the senior project manager, the one without the beard up there. So I'm joined the project for my aquatics experience. Please don't throw any books at me. I did do the Dodge City Aquatics Park just down the road, so familiar with water parks of this magnitude and right here what I would consider local to Southwest Kansas. So excited to be part of the team. Thanks for the warm welcome today.
Hi, my name is Alan Youngers. I am an estimator with McCown Gordon, so I've been working with Hank and Terry over the last couple months, working through pricing and budgeting and getting ready to bring that in front of you in a couple weeks. So.
Great.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Todd Dumler. I'll be the project manager for this. I'll be handling a lot of the day-to-day activities and working hand in hand with Barry and Alan and Mitch and the team. I just want to make sure that we've got a successful project here. So thank you guys for taking the time to meet with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
We'll try not to play whack-a-mole too much. Stand up and down. If you could go to the next slide for us. I wanted to introduce what we call the rolling GMP process. And this is a process that is used in CM at risk on a regular basis for projects that, just like this, that have a condensed timeline, that it really benefits the project to start construction before the final design is complete on the project. Much like this project, where we are anxious to get started. We got a whole line of field folks that are chomping at the bit ready to go. So this particular project, we are anticipating 2 bid packages. Bid package 1 will be, we're preparing that right now and hope to bring that to you here in a couple weeks on the 21st. That really would get the old pool demolished, get the earthwork underway, and then would bring on the pool contractor, which is that critical trade that's going to really determine the success of the project, and really help us kind of finalize that design and finish aligning the scope and the budgets of the project. So that'll be a really critical component and a milestone date here coming on the 21st. If that GMP is approved, which we are hopeful that it will be, that would allow us to mobilize on site here very shortly afterwards and begin the demolishing of the old pool and start getting the earthwork and laying the groundwork for the new facility to begin. Bid package 2 would come in a couple of months, early September. We're anticipating that one, if not sooner. We're hopeful that could potentially come up a little bit, but that would be the rest of the trades. And then we would be off full construction after that and well on our way to a Memorial Day opening of 2021. So I'll turn it over to Alan here, and he's going to talk just a little bit about kind of the dollars and cents side of things and just how they go.
So I have a question before yet. So a lot of people, so this is a big thing for all of us here in Garden City, and so I don't know if you're going to be providing a photographer to take pictures of everything along the way, because this is going to be a very important time in our history, and so, or if we need to, I want to make sure that that's something that we plan on, because a lot of people have been speculating what's under the deep end of the big pool. None of us have any idea, but I can hardly wait to see. But I know that documenting this for us as a community is going to be extremely important. So I'm wondering, do we need to be responsible for that, or are you going to be responsible for that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we typically have daily photos that are taken on as the project is progressing, both from the minute the first shovel is taken to all the way through the end, and documented very well throughout the process. We also engage with professional photographers and drone footage to capture some of those really high level, big picture of things and capture some of that progress on pre-programmed milestones. I'll be honest with you, with pools, everything happens below the ground. So for the first several months of construction, it just doesn't really look like there's a whole lot going on because everything's below ground and you really can't see it. until we get right up to the end. And that's when the magic really comes together and you start seeing all of this formulate all at one time. So we absolutely do provide
Okay.
those things. But it, you know, if you guys have a professional photographer.
We do. We
someone
have
of your own,
communications and they will be there, but
Yeah.
I know this is really important for us as to make sure we show the transition and I just want to make sure we don't lose this. So if we need to cover, I just want to make sure we get that done because it's very
Absolutely,
important. So.
and we typically pair with, you know, if you have I think we met her earlier today.
Yep, Jamie. Yeah.
Jamie, that was her name? Yes. We typically pair with whoever that person is in charge of social media and
Okay.
create those kind of broadcasts and flyers and things that can go out to the community and provide that update to the community, because we understand this is a big project for a lot of folks that are interested for various reasons, and they all want to see that progress and
Yeah,
they're
it's
interested in
huge.
it.
So.
And Mayor, we're going to do something just a little bit extra special on this
Oh,
one.
all
We had the construction team identify important things that are going to happen over the course of the construction. So Jamie will actually go out and interview them during that part and explain what they're doing, and then we'll get photographs of that as well. So there will be some highlights along the way that will be really special. So
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate, I know it's a detail, but I can't tell you how much this pool means a lot to our community, and so documenting this history is important. So.
You bet, we understand. Yes, we've used time-lapse videos on other projects where we capture a still shot, you know, on recurring milestones or on a weekly basis, and then those get condensed down into one or 2 minute video, so you can see the entire 10 or 11 month progress condensed into a 1 minute video, which is really pretty interesting to watch that all pulled together. So lots of different things that we can do to support that and integrate that into the community information.
Thank you.
So while this schedule is pulled up here on the screen, I do want to point out, as I talked a little bit earlier, the rolling GMP process allows us to start that before the design is complete. So the first little star right there, plus sign, it represents our bid package number 1 that would be coming here in 2 weeks. The very top bar represents the design, and then the estimating right below it. So design, that's Terry and his group and all of his line of consultants. The estimating is Alan, plus some other folks in our office. Those extend past that. So while we're actually busy on site doing groundwork and excavating, we're still working on the rest of that process. And we would recommend this process on a project just like this and think it fits very well. So anybody else have any other questions? We'll circle back to the design, the bid packaging.
I think I'd just like to highlight, because I know it's very important too for the community, is to know that when this thing is complete. So throughout your guys' presentation, just emphasize that this will be done in 2021 and it'll be open. And that's just what people have been saying is, it's gonna be another 2 years before we have it. So I just,
Yeah, and we've heard some outrageous figures of what we're spending on, and I'm not going to mention any of them because I don't want to give you any ideas, but I'm just like, no, I don't think so.
Just so they know it's coming from, you professionals that, this is gonna be done 2021, opening date.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So that, as of today, that's our marching orders, is to deliver this project on Memorial Weekend. And, pools have such a limited lifespan when they can operate during the summer months. If you miss even a couple of days or a couple of weeks, it can be a real detriment to the operation. So we fully understand how important it is to hit those milestones and make sure that we're delivering on that promise, which is part of why we're here today. So thank you.
Thank you.
So with the portion that Barry was talking about, I want to talk a little bit about the forward portion of that plus symbol. So what we've been working on up to 2 weeks from today, and what we've been working on up to today. So through this process, we are providing a cost to you, but at the same time, we're also budgeting the rest of the project. So we're not bringing you just one portion of it without you knowing what is the rest of the project looking like. We're looking at it as a whole project together and providing a cost on one piece of it. Part of that is because the design is only up to a certain point. So we're bidding it in sections more or less. So at this point, we've already bid out the earthwork and the pool contractor, as well as the utility work. The utility work looks like it may be changing a little bit, so we're gonna slide that to a later package, and that's why this process works very well. more or less on the 21st, that's when we have the guaranteed price for the first portion of it's about 75% of your overall budget. At the same time that we're doing that, yesterday we sent out the invitations to bid for the remainder of the project. Prior to yesterday, we were getting budgets in on all the remaining portions of it. So it's an ongoing process on a lot of different levels to give you a confidence that at the end of the day, we know this is the budget that we've got to meet. How do we get there? And that's where we're really drilling down through that whole process. Even though you see it expands on both sides of that plus symbol. So with that, any closing comments or questions?
Yeah, pretty simple presentation here. We just wanted to make sure you were aware of the process we've been working on and get a chance to stand here in front of you. And if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them before we come back to you asking for approval of that bid package 1 on the 21st.
So who will actually be here in Garden City? Will that be you, Barry? Will you be here in Garden City the whole time of the project, or you'll?
Yeah, so I will be making, several trips throughout the project to
Okay.
Garden City. Todd will be here on a much more frequent basis.
Okay.
Generally on a weekly basis. We have regular recurring meetings with the immediate project team and the architects and consultants to just keep the flow of construction going. And then we will have superintendents that will actually be boots on the ground, living out here in Garden City to make sure that they can keep tabs on the project. And we're actually interested in bringing on some folks that are local here in the community to assist with the construction of it. So we will have full McCown-Gordon representation here in the community throughout the duration of the project.
Great, sounds good.
Commissioners, and if I can, just before we end this topic, I just want to do a plug for our event that's happening on Saturday, the farewell celebration for the big pool. I think it's going to be really special. Jamie has worked extremely hard on this project, creating bumper stickers, recreating bumper stickers that they had in the 1930s, along with pieces of the concrete with the stickers from the current logo, a group photo, and the fire truck will be there spraying water. So I think just a lot of things to commemorate everything that we love currently about the big pool. So we definitely would encourage you to come out and encourage you to encourage others to come out. So this meeting, this presentation, everything, we're just really excited and hope this was a good kickoff and a good information piece for you guys as we move into some decision points over the next couple meetings.
And that's noon to 2 on Saturday, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thanks, Roy. 12 to 2.
And then there was a 12:30, there's a photo session or something that will
Correct.
Is that?
Yeah. So at 12:30, thanks to Mike Muirhead, they built stairs to get into the deep end of the pool.
Wow.
And thanks to Matt, he did some quick math for us to determine that we could actually put 900 people in with 6-foot social distancing in the deep end of the big pool. We will have masks for those who come out and would like to be part of that picture. And GIS will fly over with a drone at 12:30. So we have kind of a final picture of as many people as want to come out and be in that photograph. So, and we'll have snow cones from Williams.
So I know it's on social. I know it's on social media, but I know that since we all have different social media people, so if you can share it. So, but there's the
Please.
social media post is really neat too. So yeah.
Please. Any other questions for staff on this topic today?
And we're excited that you're here. The project's moving forward, and it's good to put a face. With your bid was very impressive, and so we're excited to have you here today. So, thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Items A, C, and D are written reports. If you have questions on those, we'd be happy to try to answer those. This would probably mention that monthly sales tax report reflects probably the first full month where the stay-at-home order had impacted sales tax. So it would have been the June 25th receipts, which would have represented April sales. And so we probably have one more month that's susceptible to seeing a downturn. Just generally, we can get into this maybe a little bit more as it relates to the adoption of the 2021 budget. While that does show a downward trend over the same month to the previous year. And then now on an aggregate level, a slight decline, relatively flat, but slight decline from year to date 2019. It's probably better than we were initially projecting and incorporating into the draft 2021 budget. So that part of it's good. It's still a downward trend, most definitely. But we're less concerned than we were maybe 2 or 3 months ago. You'll see the Development Corporation Board meeting will be back in this room, and their next one is later on in the month, the 22nd. Those are open meetings. You're welcome to attend. I think with that, we're ready for 9A. This is the consideration of the Appropriation Ordinance, and if approved, it would be number 2510-2020A.
I would move that we approve Appropriation Ordinance number 2510-2020A. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a resolution to set a date for a public hearing for an unsafe, unfit, or dangerous structure. And if approved, this would be Resolution 2852-2020. This is specifically related to the structure at 401 Hudson Street. Carol.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. This address, the house located at 401 Hudson Street, has been a concern for actually quite a while. We have been working on the determination if it's safe or unsafe since 2019, in March of 2019. However, at that time it wasn't considered unsafe, but then it had deteriorated a little bit more, and now our inspectors have determined that it is considered unsafe and unfit. So we are here to present this resolution so that we can set a time and date. The time or the date would be September 8th, the time 2 o'clock for a public hearing to move forward on either repair or removal of this structure. I will say that we have on record the owners are the Larry and Marcia Stapp. I have just met the new owners. This property has been sold, and I just met the new owners. They already are showing interest in rehabilitating this home and bringing it back up to a safe and inhabitable place so that they can have their daughter move in. So, but at this time, it's just setting the time and date for the resolution. I just briefly spoke with them about the process and what we need to do next. So I'm anticipating that they're going to want to move forward and request and bring evidence at the next meeting that it doesn't need to be demolished, that we can work to get it repaired. So, but as I said, this is just to set the time and date for the resolution. If you have any other questions, I can certainly answer them.
Carol, the 8th isn't a regularly scheduled meeting. That would be the 1st and the 15th.
Oh.
And so for numbers of days, would having that on September 1st be a problem? I'm not sure what the statutory requirements are.
Yeah, the statutory requirements are.
It just has to be published twice and then 30 days notice prior.
I think the 1st should work as long as we're.
It would comply, yes.
Yeah.
So September 1st, you said?
So the correction would be September 1st at 2 p.m. for the public hearing.
I'll make a motion we approve Resolution 2852-2020 with the amended date of September 1st.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Commissioners, we're now ready for item 12A under new business. The governing body is asked to consider and approve the detour route supplemental agreement number 1 to agreement number 65-19 between the City of Garden City and the Secretary of Transportation of the State of Kansas regarding the US 5083 bypass project and commit the funds to repair broken concrete panels of Kansas Avenue, Fulton Street, Taylor Avenue, and a future mill and inlay project on Campus Drive. Andy?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. So in June of 2019, we signed an agreement for damages for Campus Avenue for the bypass project. Prior to that project for $320,795. The project was extended 28 days beyond the allotted time, and the state has come back and said, we're going to increase what we were going to give the city by $112,278. And so staff has been looking into the best way to spend these funds. And if you remember at the commission retreat in February, staff presented a few estimates from Wilson on what we can do with campus. And the 3-inch mill and inlay was $432,100, which comes really close to these two numbers that come together for reimbursement from, or for payment from the state, from KDOT. And then an asphalt base and reconstruction is roughly in the $2.3 million, and then concrete would be in the $2.9 million range. And so I've spent some time with Matt, city manager, and also with Adam Sharp with Wilson, discussing just different avenues to look at this. And Adam and I have spent quite a bit of time out on Campus Avenue and then these couple other places looking at this, trying to come up with an idea of what's the best way to use these funds. And so what you've seen in your packet, what we're presenting today, is that after reviewing the damage on Campus Drive and the intersections at Kansas Avenue, Fulton Street, there's a few throughout that deal, or throughout Taylor Avenue and whatnot, that really aren't presented here. They're just depend on how far the funds go and what we could do. Those are minor areas that may take, but the ones we've presented before you today are things we really think need to happen. But staff believes the following repairs and estimated costs is the best use of the detour funds, and this plan would forego the complete 3-inch mill and inlay at this time, as staff believes with scheduled maintenance, we can push the usability of Campus Avenue a little further in the future. Can we give you an exact number? Would it be 1 round of crack and chip seal? Would it be 2? It's really hard to say, but we think we can push it a little further out into the future and make these repairs usable and beneficial for the city. But Kansas Avenue and Campus Drive, it's estimated at $48,200. Kansas Avenue and Campus Drive, that's the north intersection. And we can pull those up if you want, Matt, and we can kind of talk through this a little bit. Okay, we'll just start there. That's on Fulton Street, which has been discussed a little bit here in passing, even in commission meetings, about getting some of that patched. And we've thrown some winter mix and different things in there, and it just doesn't hold up. But that's the $67,100 number you see in the packet. And if we scroll down a little further, that would be replacing concrete panels. Here in the red is where we would propose coming in and doing the 3-inch mill and inlay on some of the trouble spots. And most of it, you probably know, is on that south entrance by the college. That's where we see a lot of that. And so that area, and then up by the intersection, up by the baseball field, across from Dollar General, and I think AutoZone are there, so those are areas that we think with these funds we could repair that. And that's in the $164,000 estimated range. And then here we are at Kansas Avenue and Campus Drive. On the north side, that wasn't part of the bypass, but we think since if we pursue this and we're going to be in here at this time, we may as well fix these bad panels in here. And then on the south side, these are panels that need to be replaced, and the yellow are panels that could get by with it, but while we're in there, we don't want to just leave those 3 or 4 panels in there. We want to just go ahead and replace them, because then we're in there at another time replacing those. And the south side, the north side is $48,200, the south side is $129,900, and then on 2nd Street. So we have an area where the commission decided not to do the Kansas Avenue project a few meetings ago. We have an area 20, 30 feet wide by 2nd Street on Kansas Avenue that really needs to be redone. And we can just take that out with pursuing this and use those funds to take care of that area and not have to come back in there at a later time as well. So with that, staff, you've been able to look at some of these things, but staff has some, we're gonna look at 2 alternatives to put, 2 ideas to put into one, but staff asks and requests that we approve the KDOT supplement number 1 agreement number 6519 for a lump sum payment of $433,073 for surface improvements on Campus Drive, or 2, deny the KDOT supplemental number 1 to agreement number 6519 for a lump sum payment of $433,073 for surface improvements on Campus Avenue. Alternative 3, advise staff to receive bids to repair concrete on Campus Drive intersections at Kansas Avenue and Fulton Street, and on Kansas Avenue at 2nd Street, and a 3-inch mill and inlay on trouble spots on Kansas Avenue. So our recommendation is 2 of these alternatives: to accept the supplemental agreement of the $433 plus $1,000, and also look into putting the project together to receive bids for these problem areas and use this money for that. And if we decide to do that, we'd take this money, earmark it for that, and make sure those funds would be used for that.
So Andy, if you choose to do these repairs, so when would they start, and would they start already this summer, or?
We would try. We would try to get it moving as soon as
So the dollars
we
would turn, if we accepted those, and the dollars would come to us very quickly?
Yeah, they should turn relatively quickly.
Oh,
I make a motion we approve KDOT Supplemental 1 to agreement number 6519 for the lump sum payment of $433,073 for surface improvements on Campus Drive, and advise staff to receive bids to repair concrete on the Campus Drive intersections at Kansas Avenue and Fulton Street, and on Campus Avenue at 2nd Street, and a 3-inch mill and inlay on troubled spots on Campus Drive.
That's a mouthful. So we have a motion on to approve alternatives 1 and 3. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? And I want to say thank you for the great work, and this is incredible use of the dollars.
So just to clarify, I think, Andy, just so everybody understands that this is going to be replacement of existing concrete panels and a replacement of existing asphalt paving.
Yeah.
Right? No asphalt's going to be turned into concrete.
If it is, it's just going to be a little bit at transition areas.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, they're gonna mill it and then lay it back down.
Well, there
to
was just
repair it.
questions
Right.
out there that is it turning into concrete then?
No.
Okay.
No,
No,
just
no,
where those
Existing.
transitions of intersections come,
Right.
if it's beneficial to back them up a little bit, maybe,
Right.
but we're not gonna
Right.
put panels of concrete in the middle of it.
Well, and I really appreciate that you've picked the trouble spots that people have been complaining about the most. So I think that you've really identified
Thank you.
those. So. Okay, any further discussion or questions or clarifications? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 12B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the city purchasing Lot 1, Block 1 of the Proprius Commercial Subdivision in the amount of $25,000. Mike?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. As part of the asset purchase agreement, which is the agreement that we have, we refer to it as the APA between the City of Garden City, Wheatland Electric, and Sunflower Electric. Part of that agreement was that we would have an additional 10 megawatts of electric capacity available at their Ursic and Dahl substation, which is located out on Raceway Road. There's overhead power lines bringing it into the city. We just built additional overhead power lines over by East Garden Village, and then to connect all of that to our existing underground facilities, we want to get permission to purchase this one lot of property from Proprius Industries, commercial subdivision. It's in the commercial subdivision. It'll connect the overhead to the underground line, the property, and in my memo I made an error there. It's not 0.29, it's 0.158 acres. And there's a map in there that's located just north of Jenny Barker and the Highway 50 intersection on the east side of Jenny Barker Road. Or another way to look at it is just south of the edge of the East Garden Village Mobile Home Park. and the purchase price is $25,000 for that piece of property. You can authorize us to move forward with that purchase or not authorize that. We recommend alternate one, authorize permission to move forward, and the funding for this would come from our the GL account that we're using for the other asset purchase agreement facilities.
Yeah, that's the only question I would have.
I make a motion, we authorize the purchase of Lot 1, Block 1, of the Proprius Commercial Subdivision in the amount of $25,000.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item 12C, the governing body is asked to review changes that have been made since the last meeting to the 2021 city manager's proposed budget, and then begin having your discussion as to how to change the city manager's proposed budget into the governing body's approved annual budget for 2021. And I will start on this and then have Melinda walk you through some of the changes. But over the past several meetings, the commission has been presented the 2021 city manager's proposed budget. And so just to give you a sense of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, at this point in time, we've gone through the capital improvement planning process. We've gone through the city commission retreat that set some goals. We've gone through the departments creating their budgets. We've gone through the review internally at an administrative level of those budgets to turn those into what you've been presented over the last 5 meetings. At this point in time, we have some options for you, and ideally, the commission would arrive at a point at the end of this agenda item where you might be comfortable publishing a notice of public hearing. That public hearing would then be held on July 21st. Following the public hearing, the commission would consider any final amendments, and then after having made any final amendments, you would consider approval and adoption of the 2021 city budget. That's the last public action you would take on the 2021 city budget. Staff takes care of the reporting and submittal requirements to the county clerk and the state of Kansas. And so I'm going to have Melinda kind of walk you through the changes that are the final administrative changes to the city manager's proposed budget. They're included in this memo. And if you've got any questions on those, please interrupt and we can try to answer those as best we can. There is one that's not on here that happened before we kind of made this list, and it's different than what you've presented. So I think we're obligated to point it out. There is a line item in the 171 fund, so it's part of the general fund, 001171. It's called capital improvements, right? Or community, what's it called? I don't know what the fund's name is called.
Capital improvement.
Capital improvements, which is a little bit misleading because there aren't capital improvements in there. That's where we fund Finney County Economic Development, Downtown Vision, Chamber of Commerce, the municipal band, but there's also the community grant is funded out of there. Well, when we created the community grant, the original motion of the commission is that the drafted budget would reflect 3/8 of a mil. I don't think at any point in time the commission's approved 3/8 of a mil, and so we dialed that back from what you presented, which showed 3/8 of a mil, down to what was approved last year for the budget, right? Which is either 40,000 or 45,000. So there was a less than $40,000 reduction in that line item that isn't on this list, but I wanted to call your attention to.
So is it 40,000 or is it 45?
45.
45?
Yeah.
Do I hear 40? No.
Well, that can be, yes. Certainly you can adjust that up or down as your discussion evolves.
Before he gets going with his auctioneer voice, be careful.
Seems like we always have a lot of discussion on that line item.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the changes that we have noted in this memo is, the first one is with the NeoGov software. If we would go ahead and purchase this year, we would get 1.5 years worth of the NeoGov Learn. So we're saving roughly $20,000 in 2021, so we moved ahead on that. We're taking out the dispatch office furniture. It's coming out of the 05 fund now. The police department has been carrying over money from the Motorola contract, $90,000 each year. So they've got $250-some thousand in this 05 fund, so we're gonna be starting to utilize some of that money. The RMS module, 4,200, is in the police department, and it's coming out of the 05. The Easy Street draw is 9,000, is coming out of the 05 fund. The LEC office remodel, once we move municipal court and evidence into the 7th Street, they're gonna be doing a little bit of remodeling in the LEC for 25,000, that's coming out of the 05. Office furniture for investigations is at 20,000, coming out of that same fund. Patrol supervisor furniture, 14,000, the same fund, the 05 fund. New evidence equipment, 79,900, will be coming out of the 05 fund. The NDS planning software, 15,000 each year. It was removed from the budget. And in the zoo, they had a sandblaster that they're gonna take alternative methods to get that. We took that out at 12,000. The expedition that Christy talked about, that was a 1999. We do have a fire department vehicle that's coming out of their fleet that Christy thinks will work, and they're gonna put a cab on it and dress it up a little bit, and it won't be red anymore. Might be camo or something. But anyway, we were able to take, it was reduced from 37,000 to 10,000. The air vac system at Station 2, 21.3, that'll come out of the 05 fund. They're still getting it. Then there was a correction on the transfer to the general fund from the utility area. We missed picking up the number from solid waste, so this was a big, this made Matt breathe a little bit better for the weekend.
That's nice.
And let's see, and then the authorized positions, we have the step and pay grade area, and in the general fund, that amount to $499,503. And so then when you have these changes, the negative amount in 2020 is actual increased expenses, and the positive amount in 2021 is reducing your mill levy. So overall, you know,
I think those are flip-flopped, actually, Melinda. 2021's the near line item.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And 2020 would be an actual
there you go. Yeah,
change that
I was reading
positively impacts the, I guess negatively, lowers the property tax requirement. I do believe, Melinda, on this expedition replacement line item, this is a reduction of 27,000 rather than 10.
Yes.
And that, it's correct in your budget form.
Right.
Is it 10? It's incorrectly listed here in this memo. So I would say you need to improve on this number by $17,000. That would take the net increase to the property tax obligation in 2021 up another down another. Makes the negative number lower. So you're just under 80, like 79,000. But the big numbers at the end are correct. It's just
right.
This chart that would be off by 17,000. Yeah.
There is a little bit of an impact to the airport fund on the pay study. Then you also have the other funds that are not in the mill levy calculation, the golf course, electric, water, wastewater, solid waste. All of those have changes in the personnel line items for the pay plan. Then we come down to this chart. You'll see 2020 on the right-hand side. The valuation of the city for the 2020 budget was $211,496 per mill, and we went up to $218,461 in 2021. As presented, you're looking at a 39.503 mills for 2021 as compared to 38,566. So you're very close to what you were in 2020. And I think I'll let Matt talk about, you know, your options here on what things that you can choose to do. And I will chime in when need be.
Thank you, Melinda. And you'll see below that graph, she's done the computation for you. It's also an attachment later, but this is it in paragraph form, that you're still under the lid, comfortably under the lid, even as shown with the proposed budget. So the city manager's proposed budget tries to stay away from making budget policy decisions and more addressing it from a managerial standpoint of looking at efficiencies of what we do. Now, kind of the what do we value? Do we value this project more than this project, or this service more than this service, this program over this program? When it gets down to those levels, this budget, this sizable budget, really kind of boils down each year to a few decisions that that also are counterbalanced then by this other competing goal of keeping a property tax where you collectively as a group feel comfortable putting it. So, you know, I either get questions or comments throughout the year about taxes generally or property taxes specifically, but then also get some questions about why is it that your general fund's 25 million, you got $130-some million budget, $120-some million budget. Well, that's, you know, most of it is enterprise funds. I mean, and so this last couple of meetings of the year, despite a $130 million budget, boils down to the $25 million fund, of which even only 20% of that ends up being property tax. And so, but that's the reality. It ends up being kind of the balancing number of the budget when you get down to it. And so here we are right now with this approximately $200,000 and change gap. And based on what we've been able to administratively discern as savings, you can decide that some of those aren't administrative and that those are policy issues and you'd like to see those added back, or you'd like to see further reduction. Assuming we're on the same page with those, though, what are some outstanding sort of policy decisions? We look at capital projects, and looking at where you would prioritize some of those capital projects during your goal setting retreat. It would appear sort of the next project up based on that prioritization and when it is necessary to occur could put the Valley View Cemetery expansion as a possible budget policy issue. You could move that to an out year 2022. Now, your decision to not include it in 2021 and move it out to 2022 doesn't mean that we don't have to talk about it anymore, and 2 years from now we're going to go bid that project. You would still have to budget that project and approve that project, beginning with the budget of doing the budget next year for 2022. But that project hangs out there. Also, when we have the commission look at general fund positions, because that's a recurring expense and changes the census of the city staffing, we like to point that out in this memo so that your stamp of approval is on adding that to the census rather than simply just bringing it up when we go through the funds and seeing if you remember.
Would you rather us ask questions about these items now, or wait till you present them all, or because what would be easier for you?
Well, I've got two more, so why don't I just suggest those, and then we'll open them up for comment. And then the fourth is the adjusting the sales tax projections. This moves away from the expenses, goes over the revenue side and says, okay, sales tax is a guess, right? And it's, we would call it an assumption formally, but it's a guess. And you're guessing what your sales tax receipts are. So we typically budget that conservatively, but the commission can, in the making of their budget, decide, well, we're down to this point and maybe we need to dig into that property tax number a little bit more. Do we feel comfortable getting a little bit more aggressive with our sales tax projection, or would we rather find another expense to cut? So that it's sort of a feathering number as you're considering that balancing number for property tax. And then finally, number 5 in your memo is the implementation of the step and grade pay plan that was the product of the McGrath pay study. Those are the 5 sort of big from either a policy perspective or big from a number perspective, a dollar amount perspective that we think are still in play and would need the commission's authorization to include in the budget or your direction to remove those from the budget. So I think at this point in time, we turn it over to you to ask us questions if you need some clarification, or to begin the discussion with each other about where you'd like to end up with the 2021 budget.
Well, I'd like to, if we can, ask questions about these 5 items, and then what we'll do is we can kind of come to a consensus before we accept a motion. So as far as the Valley View Cemetery expansion, and I'm not sure how many spots this adds, and then I couldn't remember, was it, I know you told me and I had the figures, and
I think
you remember, Andy?
Andy, you'll clarify, I think it's just short of 1,000 spots, 900, high 900s.
Currently.
And then my other question on the cemetery, and so we just finished the water project or the new irrigation project, is that correct, Andy, this year? And that was how much was that?
The bond was 1.4 million.
1.4, so we've spent 1.4 million at the cemetery.
We're close to that. We're getting ready to close it out, and so we'll have a hard number on that pretty soon.
And then I know the firefighter position, is it just a regular firefighter position, Chief, or is it a specialty position? I know that you wanted to even out all of your shifts. And again, I'm doing this more for the benefit of also people are watching and listening to us, and so just to make sure that we understand, I just want to clarify what that position is that you're adding on.
You're correct, sir. It's just a regular firefighter position, an entry-level position.
And that evens out all of your shifts then, and so
Yes,
you
sir.
have the equal. Any other questions that you have?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Yeah, the step and pay, I know that we spend a lot of time, and I know the staff spent a lot of time and energy, and the report was very extensive, and it's something that I think is very important, that needs to say. I don't know what you guys think. So any other questions of anyone here that on the 5 items that Matt talked about that we could actually entertain, or anything else?
I'd like to keep it flat, so I'll make a motion that we approve alternative 1, option 2 on the city manager's proposed budget minus the cemetery expansion and a slight increase in the sales tax to achieve the flat mill levy.
Yeah, that's where I'd like to remain too, so I'm going to second that. Is there any discussion on that?
The only thing that I'd say is I would, if possible, and again, this is where you can kind of just bump up and down sales tax figures when, it looks like we're going to come above what that estimate was looking at. If we could do a slight token 0.1 reduction, just to have that as a thing, I would. It's not one of the options here. I'm just talking in the future. That doesn't change the motion or anything. I'm just.
Yeah, because we do have the opportunity to actually do something lower at our next action
when we actually
adopt
set
the
the actual number, but that's just for future of what I'm thinking.
Can we take 5,500 out of the social fund and make it 40,000 even? That'll help raise it.
Be careful with that. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, Mayor, I might offer up. This isn't the final decision. This is the notice of public hearing. However, and you've alluded to this, but just to be clear, after the public hearing, you can still change the budget.
Right.
You can't change it in a way that requires more property tax than what you published in your notice of public hearing. So you could, I believe the motion and the second were for option 2, which would be it would generate a flat mill levy. You could make the decision at that meeting after the public hearing to adopt a budget differently than the one shown in the notice of public hearing.
So when is our public hearing then? It'd be on the 21st?
If you would approve this, it would be the meeting of the 21st at 1:30.
The thing, there's still so many unknowns with, I think a lot of people are recovering from the pandemic, and I know that businesses are starting to pick up, and this year, I think keeping things as steady as possible. I'd love to see a decrease if possible, but I do think we owe it to our constituency to really keep it flat if we can. So
I agree. I think keeping it flat is a good. There's some steadiness to that too.
Yeah. We could use a little bit of evenness to all of this. Any further discussion?
Call the question.
Okay. If all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent job on the budget. This was incredible work, and I just want to say thank you to every department who really looked through and said, hey, how can we help not only our community, but also the city really be efficient? So thank you for the work on this.
Item 12D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the only bid for the purchase of an asphalt recycling trailer. Andy.
Good afternoon again.
Hello
Mr.
again.
Mayor, Commissioners. We spent a lot of time together today. That's right. Yeah, so the 2020 approved budget included an asphalt patch truck with an estimated cost of $210,000 to be paid in 3 equal annual installments. And after demonstrating both a patch truck and an asphalt trailer and talking with Casey Howard, he's the street superintendent, and he's here today. If there's any detailed questions on some of this, he can answer them probably a little better than I can. It's been determined by staff that the asphalt trailer would accommodate us a little better, as sometimes we have a little difficulty in getting asphalt when we need it, because we're not looking for any big quantities all the time and to fire up plants and do this stuff. And a lot of times we drive to Dodge if it's not available locally to get it so we can get a job done. And if we had a project where it would take a little bit more, we would still go to an asphalt plant, plan it out. But we have potholes here and there. This truck would allow us to fire up early in the morning, fix a couple potholes that need to be done here and there. Even in the winter, if the weather is accommodating, we could do it that way. This would work for us. We're getting the millings from the Jenny Barker project, and so we'll be able to use that. But whatever's left in the pothole that doesn't get too contaminated, we're able to take those and rejuvenate them and use them as well. And so street staff would like to go this direction. We didn't like how the patch truck worked. It's really a good operation, but at this point we didn't think it was best for us. We filled a few potholes in. One of them would be right there at Applebee's when you turn in right there at Applebee's. That's one place that we tried it, and you can tell now that it catches a lot of traffic right there. But an asphalt patch would do a lot better there than the patch truck. So what happens with those is it gets hot, they get runny, you need to throw more material on top of them again, and so it just isn't the best use for our operation. The one thing that we really think that this benefits for us is that the patch truck is a $210,000 item. This is an $80,600 item. And so we're bringing this before you not in consent because it's a change in what was approved in the budget last year for this year. And I do apologize, there is a mistake on here. There is no trade-in of $15,000 that got pulled over from a different item that we used for this. But so what we're asking is approve the bid for a Craftco asphalt recycling trailer from Paving Maintenance Supply in Wichita, Kansas for $80,600. The other alternative would be to reject it, but staff recommends alternative 1, and this would come out of the GL code that would have originally paid for the patch truck.
So Andy, we've already approved the dollars, is that correct? Well, and you're just asking for a change in purchase?
It would be a little bit higher because the 210 over a 3-year is slightly less than the 80,000. And so we're asking, we have it in the reserve fund in there. And so we have the money to do it. It's not general fund, it's in the street.
I make the motion we approve the bid for the Craftco asphalt recycling trailer for Paving Maintenance Supply in Wichita, Kansas for $80,600.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. And so Andy, thank you and Casey also for looking for additional alternatives that really work best with your street department. So that's great. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Hey, and Andy, while you're both here, and I just want to ask a question. I had a resident who asked me, and I didn't even know, but they asked me, is there a different speed limit around St. Catherine's Hospital? Somebody told me it was 20 miles an hour, and I said, I don't think so, but.
I don't believe so.
And
I think we've slowed them down.
Right, with the bump outs, yeah. The only other thing they were concerned about was making sure that the striping around there, because it's so, I know that it's kind of be wearing out, and I said I would check with you and then find out, but.
We'll look at it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was any slower, but because if you try to go through those pretty fast, you're gonna get caught on one of those.
Okay.
You did a good job of slowing people down. Thank you. So I know that Commissioner Ortiz is stepping down for item E, so we want to make sure that the minutes reflect that Commissioner Ortiz has left the bench.
Item 12E. The governing body is asked to consider and approve a request for proposal for architectural services at 310 North 7th Street. Jennifer? Oh, I'm sorry, Jared.
Jennifer.
She's fast.
It's kind of a long walk
Yeah.
over there, especially with the slight delay.
It's part of our health fitness program.
I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it.
Walks on Monday nights.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it's a little bit warmer over there than it is here, so you have that
there you go.
temperature switch.
Wow, that is nice.
So,
Good.
yeah, it's quite the haul. Okay, so item number E, which is 310 North 7th Street. You guys will recognize that as the Telegram building. Last before you was the discussion of the purchase and the purchase agreement on that building. We have closed. We closed on that building last Tuesday, and we are now moving forward into making this the bifurcated home of the Evidence Department and Municipal Court. And so there's several things that have to happen in order for us to get to the finish line here. But the first is, and we wanted to get out quickly, is to get a drawing from an architect that will be designed in the way we want it to look. As most of you have seen, Tyler Patterson from the Electric Department did a fantastic job laying out what we want, but it's not to the specs that we need in order to get through a site plan and then to determine what work we need a contractor to do in order to get moving forward. So this lays out what we hope to do and kind of the time frame in which we hope to do it. Today would open the RFP process for, if approved by you all, would open the RFP process for the architect. We do have a pretty quick turnaround on this because we feel as though with the building laid out the way it is and with us understanding exactly what we want, we're not asking an architect to come in and be really creative or do any special design that we don't already have. We're just asking them to make it fit the needs of site plan review so that we can follow the same requirements as everyone else. So that's basically what it does, and we're just asking for your approval so that we can get moving.
I make a motion, we approve the request for proposal as presented.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Mayor, I had requested your consideration of an executive session at the end of the meeting. I don't anticipate there being any action necessary at the end of the executive session, but just want to clarify that for folks watching. That would set us up for item F right now, consent agenda approval. And if you don't have any items on there that you look to remove, it would be approval of items F1 through 7.
So I would move that we approve the consent agenda items F1 through 7. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 5-0.
And we can do commission reports and then end with the executive session.
Okay, that's great. Commissioner Cessna.
Great pre-meeting this morning, a lot of good information about all the things going on at the cemetery and at the sports complex area, just Ben Grimsley Sports Complex. Got a little warm out there and stuff, but a lot of good information on that. Coming up this evening, there's a live webinar on lessons learned in Finney County about the COVID pandemic. It's a Zoom link, and it starts at 7 o'clock. There's a number of featured people on it talking about how we responded in our community to the COVID pandemic in our community. So that might be something interesting to watch and how we responded and lessons learned. Also, we talked about the farewell celebration this coming Saturday from noon to 2. Kind of hit upon that. Coming up July 14th is the last day to register to vote, if you haven't noticed all the yard signs around the community. But very important that you vote for people here locally on, because we do make a lot of decisions. You know, biggest one we kind of made today about budgeting, that's kind of a priority for commissioners. But The 14th is the last day to register the vote. The first day of advance ballots are mailed out on July 15th, and the primary election is August 14th. Talking about elections, I know the county is looking for poll workers. So if you'd like to be a poll worker and help with the election, it's 12 hours. It starts at 7 in the morning, goes 7 in the evening. But they're always looking for help in those areas. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Great.
Another great day to be in Garden City.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Commissioner Sesson had reported, but also on top of that, just as important is the census. So that's one of the other things that we need to get out and get after, because I know that kind of gets thrown to the back, but I'd like to get everybody involved as we can to get that done as soon as possible. Also, your taxes are coming up too, so I know that's probably getting pushed. If you hadn't done them already, July 15th, that's the deadline. So
What a great reminder.
yes, exactly. Hey, I
Ortiz.
still need to do mine, so I'm reminding myself, but more for me. But yes, just appreciate all of the projects going on in Garden City. I know that a lot of people do enjoy those amenities here in Garden City. Great job on the departments on keeping those up. That's one of the things, like Commissioner Sesson had said about the budget. Those items are important, and it's those little things that we kind of take for granted and we don't remember about. We don't take into consideration or thought that those things do cost for maintenance and things and upkeep. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well, as far as what you get to do in Garden City, what we have, and what's coming up. So the future's bright for Garden City. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Euler.
Well, I just wanted to comment, you know, driving around this time of the year, it's really warm, but I just appreciate how beautiful our city looks and how nice those common spaces look with the landscaping. And I mean, I just feel so fortunate to be able to live here and drive around and see that. And so congratulations to everybody who works on that. On the walking trails, I would just like to encourage people to remember to pick up after their pets. Today, I noticed on Tally Trail early this morning, thank goodness it was already light out, a few places where I had to step around. And so just, you know, we do a good job of making sure that the materials are there to pick up the stuff, and so just please use that. Stuff the Bus is coming up. We will have a backpack distribution this year on July 30th. We're still working out the details of a site. It will be an outdoor distribution this year, so it will be in a parking lot, and we'll be distributing the backpacks to vehicles. And once we have more information, we'll be sending that out.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner Dick.
Like everybody else said, great pre-meeting. I'd like to point out, since it hasn't been too, check out the new playground equipment at Herald Lawn. That's really impressive and a good look to our future, what we can try to strive for our future playgrounds. Like Commissioner Ortiz says, we need the census. It's one of the most important things that we're going to do this year is that census. Make sure you get it done. Make sure everybody you know is getting that done. I'd like to comment just a second on how impressive it is to be able to get done the amount of stuff that's getting done this last year and this next year coming up, and still being able to talk about a flat mill rate, or maybe a little bit less. But really, if you think about at this time where we're at, at this time where we're at with all the obstacles that we have as a community, being able to do that really shows us the strength that we have in our community and in our area. So that's a really important thing and a really amazing thing that we're able to do. I'd also like to just touch just a second on just talking about face masks. Like we've said before, we're glad to follow the lead of the county and let them make those sorts of decisions. And one of those things is, do we need to follow an executive order or not? And in Finney County, you know what, we might not need to have an executive order for face masks. And the reason is because people are already wearing face masks. When you go to Menards, when you go to Home Depot, you go to Ace, you see a lot of people wearing face masks. And if you look at the research, you need about 40% of the population when you're in a public area to be able to reduce the spread of the disease to a declining rate instead of inclining rate. And without any executive order, we've already done that as a community, and we need to keep on doing that as a community because that's the way that we're going to be able to get over this. So I'm glad with the leadership that they have. Just even though our numbers are low, the number of active cases we have right now are low. That doesn't mean we need to all stop wearing face masks. It's just the thing, you don't want to throw away your umbrella during a rainstorm just because you're dry, right? You want to keep that. That's what's protecting us. So glad to see where we're at. Glad to see the leadership we have, and just keep on social distancing, face masks, because we're doing it. It's not happening in Eastern Kansas. They need that executive order. We're doing it here without the governor telling us what to do or not. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dick. So just to report, I was down at the zoo this last weekend and walking around. I'm so excited about I know it's coming close. Soon our zoo won't even look like the same zoo. It's going to be really exciting. And so I don't know. So again, if you've not been down to the zoo, it's wonderful to check it out. It was a great space just to relax and enjoy. I also want to say thank you to the fire department and all those who put dollars and energy into the fireworks display. Incredible. Again, this year it was really exciting. Now the drive home is extremely, I learned a lot of patience. So I just figured I'm going to be there all night, and then I got home at a decent time. I did attend the county commission meeting on Monday, and so I'm glad to see one of our county commissioners here. Thank you for attending. And I spoke a little bit about, this year has been a little bit different for me. I've received emails, I've received telephone calls, texts, Messenger, which is the hardest thing for me to remember to check, and people stopping me in my yard to talk about just the overall duration and the volume and of what fireworks are going on this year. I will be sharing some letters with Matt that he can send to the other commissioners, but there's a lot of issues with what's going on. You know, it used to be you did bottle rockets and firecrackers. Well, these days it's mortar. I mean, it sounds like mortar fire. I mean, some of the fireworks in our neighborhood rival the cities. And, you know, I understand that fireworks, and I want to make sure that we have a time to do those and enjoy those. But, you know, a lot of people have stopped me and said that the 9 days is just simply too long. And so how we talk about that, I asked that if we could at our joint meeting, I'll be willing to bring that up and talk about that. But I understand that we need to do something and talk about making sure that we are serving Finney County residents. And I mean, we're talking about we want to keep everyone happy, and I think there are dollars to be made, and I think it's important, and you want to celebrate. But again, I think we need to talk about, so what does that look like? I do want to thank the police department and the fire department. They did an awesome job, I think, of educating beforehand, and I think also keeping everything on the up and up. You know, I did see a lot of people who would clean up their trash nightly. I really appreciated that. I did notice some on the Tally Trail, which is a bummer. You know, but again, I think that we understand that this is part of our community pride, that we really need to make sure and clean up after ourselves. So I will be asking that to be on the next agenda for our joint meeting. With that, also, I was attending the meeting. I heard about the poll workers, and they actually raised their pay from $7 to $10, and that they were always paying $10. They said they never paid that low. So, but they actually, if you are a poll worker, there is a small stipend or a pay for that for $10. The last thing I want to do, and so, I want to also, I really appreciated, and I know that the county, this has been a lot of the responsibility for the COVID and the pandemic has been on the county. And our Finney County Health Department has done an incredible job of keeping us as a community informed. In fact, they have been used as a standout model for many places in the state. And so I am excited about the way our Colleen Dries, who's the executive director, and all of her staff have been really stepping up to the plate and really making the recommendations that they feel are best for us. And so I really appreciate their work, and I know that the commissioners, the county commissioners all thank them, and you know, they recognize the really great work. But I want to make sure and point out that we as a city have really appreciated their work also. The last thing I want to do, we talked about this as we were great pre-meeting. I love being outside. Yes, it was warm, but the last place we stopped was the pickleball courts. And was what?
Is this the challenge?
Yeah, this is the challenge. So I'm glad that Dave is here, because we want to challenge all of the other taxing entities and their boards. We'd like to challenge you to a pickleball, to the Run the Siege. So it's teams of 4, so we want to challenge you to the siege. Now, this is just a friendly competition. There's nothing that we're going to hold out other than just bragging rights. So we'll be going to the other taxing entities just to invite you to take a part on the siege. We're really excited about that opportunity, and so I know Dave wants to sign up already. So.
I have a senior division
Will I be in it also? So, but we just, I'll tell you, there are some really great opportunities for exercise and outdoor activities in Garden City. And if you need some of those, please check with the YMCA, the Garden City Recreation Commission. I mean, check with all of the different entities to let you know the great things that are going on in Garden City. And with that, we'll conclude our commission reports, and we'll go ahead and we're going to call for an executive session. And Matt, how long?
20 minutes, please.
20 minutes.
Yeah,
so, okay.
with just me.
So if we do 2:20 for 20 minutes, so that'd be, we start at 2:20 and end at 2:40, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And I believe Commissioner Cessna has the statute, but this would be for the
Great.
exemption for non-elected personnel.
I make the motion that we go into executive session pursuant to KSA 754319B1 pertaining to personal matters of non-elected personnel and their contractual obligations, because it's a matter where discussed in open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, with city manager in attendance for the length of 20 minutes starting at 2:20 and ending at 2:40.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so Commissioner Euler second. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favors, or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, so we have until 2:20.
Thank you, and we'll shut down Channel 8 and all that stuff at this time. There won't be any action taken.